Hello everyone, I am Nivedita Jaina from Ambika Prasad Research Foundation. Welcome to all of you to our channel, Biodiversity and Conservation. Today is the topic about factors regulating population density. So let's discuss. What is population regulation? So population regulation is defined as the maintenance of a population within a restricted zone of abundance so that the species neither become extinct nor increases without limits. And this does not depend on a specific stable equilibrium point, but rather on a long-term stationary probability distribution of population densities or a stochastic equilibrium probability distribution. So the key concept is that there is some mean population level around which a regulated population fluctuates. In addition, over time the population does not wander increasingly far away from this level, and the variance of the population density is bounded. So, types of factors regulating population density. A population can be regulated by limits in the food supply or by the harmful effects of parasites, predators, or competitors. The factors which play a role in regulating the density of populations are generally distinguished into two types. One is density dependent and density independent factors. So a population in a closed system, when there are no immigrants or immigrants, so the dynamics are driven solely by births and deaths, will increase until it reaches an equilibrium point at which birth rate is equal to death rate. So this equilibrium may be achieved in three possible ways. As population density goes up, birth rates may fall, death rates may rise, or both changes may occur together. So two types of factors, namely density-dependent and density-independent factors, play a key role in regulating the equilibrium. So the second factor is intrinsic and extrinsic factors. The modern view of population regulation begins by recognizing that population events are determined by the interplay of two sets of factors, extrinsic and intrinsic, according to Krebs in 2008. So the extrinsic process, like predators and disease, interact with the variable properties of individuals that make up the population, which is intrinsic processes, so that population regulation emerges as a result of interplay between these two kinds of processes. Organisms within the population interact by intraspecific competition for resources. Individuals that make up the population are not all identical. They may differ in phenotype and in genotype, and not all individuals are equally affected by disease or bad weather. So what follows is that extrinsic agents like diseases or predators cannot act on individuals of different age or sex in the same way. So one must take into account the composition of the population in studying population regulation. Then the third factor is limiting and regulating factors. A factor is defined to be a limiting factor if a change in the factor produces a change in average or equilibrium density. For example, a disease may be a limiting factor for a deer population if deer abundance is higher when the disease is absent. A factor is defined to be a potential regulating factor if the percentage mortality caused by the factor increases with population density. For example, a disease may be a potential regulating factor only if it causes a higher proportion of losses as deer density goes up. Regulating factors must always be density dependent. A distinction is also sometimes made between a potential regulating factor and an actual regulating factor. Unless the change in mortality is large enough, a regulating factor will not stop population growth. A bird that eats 1 of 1,000 grasshoppers and 6 of 2,000 grasshoppers is causing density-dependent mortality in the grasshopper population, but this impact is so tiny that it will not stop population growth. Then the next factor is factors based on predictability or variation. The environmental factors, which are responsible for regulating populations, are often the ones that affect the growth of the individual. This is because populations are made up of individuals, and population increases depends on the reproductive fitness and lifespan of these individuals. Factors such as energy and nutrient availability, flood, drought, predators, and disease will all affect population size. Environmental factors can affect populations in various ways depending on whether the factor is variable or not, and how predictable the variation is. Based on this aspect, the environmental factors can conveniently be differentiated into the following types, like constantly limiting factors. These are always in short supply but are relatively constant so that a population is limited to a certain fairly constant size by the factor. Individuals may have to compete for this resource. For example, plants compete for space and light, birds for nesting territories, and many heterotrophs for food. These factors do not usually produce large changes in population. And another one is variably limiting factors. These are variably but predictable, like seasonal drought and cold, or variation in food availability. They are only an influence at certain times of year when they may cause the population to crash. Some species avoid such factors by taking evasive action. For example, some birds migrate and deciduous trees drop their leaves. The third one is unpredictable factors. This changes in an irregular way. The population dynamics may vary considerably over time. Unpredictable factors include weather effects, grazing, or predation pressure and disease levels. Unpredictable factors tend to alter population size in an event all of a population. Such an event is, however, fairly quickly over, and the remnants of population then have time to recover free from the hazard. So if the population has died out completely, then new individuals may migrate into the area and start a new population. It can be argued that such limiting effects are not really population regulators. This is because such factors are not constantly or repeatedly limiting population size, but merely damaging it in a one-off event, after which the population will recover off to a level where real regulating effects take over. So what are the importance of metapopulation concept in analysis of regulation? An important consideration in the study of population regulation is the recognition of habitat variation in space. It is important in studying population dynamics to consider the spatial scale of the study because it can be important in measuring stability. If one concentrates on a very small population on a small area, it may fluctuate widely and even become extinct. A large population on a large study area may at the same time have a stable density. The important concept here is that local population may be linked together to dispersal into metapopulation. So to study population regulation, one must know if a population is subdivided and how the patches are linked.